Hey everybody, I'm Stephen Human. Welcome back to Superhuman Customs. This week we are working on another Batman figure. This is actually my son's Batman. He just bought it yesterday. This is from the new McFarlane Page Punchers from the Black Adam line. So it came with Black Adam, Constantine, Superman, and Batman. He's been wanting kind of his definitive Batman figure, and he decided this was going to be it. But as you can see, he's a little bit just monochrome. And this is based off of Bermejo's art. If you've ever seen his art, he kind of has a dirty Batman. So what we're gonna do today is we're just gonna add a wash to this full figure, and then we're gonna go through and we're just gonna add sort of a dry wash on top of that that's gonna lighten it up. So we're gonna get a little bit darker with just a darker wash, and then go a little bit lighter, and that'll allow us to just kind of bring out some of these details. We're also gonna just lighten up the belts just a little bit. I don't want it to be like bright yellow, so I'm gonna water down some of that paint and just make it really, really, almost, I'm gonna try and turn it into its own little wash, but just so that just so it stands out a little bit more, and just kind of dirty them up a little bit. So that is the plan for today. Let's get started. Paint-wise, what we're gonna be using, here's the wash. It's my standard, just Nuln oil or wherever it's called. That's gonna be it. The yellow I'm going to use is this Citadel yellow, and that I'll water down a little bit so that it's more like a wash. And then I'm gonna just be using the standard craft paints that I've been using. I'm looking to get an entire set of Bermejo paints. I've been hearing from everybody how wonderful they are. I wanna get some. I don't have them yet, so we're gonna be sticking with what we've got. Sometimes that's what you're gonna have to do. And I think it's gonna work out pretty well, so let's go. All right, so I'm just gonna start with the Nuln oil gloss. I'm gonna use a big brush, and I'm just gonna go over all of them, darken them up. This guy's got a lot of detail, just a lot of little areas, and I wanna hit kind of all of them so that this guy can really start to kind of stand out. Now remember, with this oil, what I found is that it tends to bead up in little dots everywhere unless you're on top of it right at the beginning and you just kind of keep moving it around, and then it will start to get inside where you want it to, and it won't become like just like he's got chicken pox or something. And so that's what I'm gonna do, is just kind of spread this around as much as possible and get it into the detail areas that I want, and not allow it to pool and, you know, make it look like like your window after a rainstorm with a little bit of dirt on it. You know, we don't want him to look that way. We want him to look just darker, and then have all of these little details just stand out a little bit better than they do currently. But you got to stay on top of it, because if you don't, then it will just beat up, and that does not look good. But see, so he's starting to darken up just a little bit. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to make him super dark, but I do want him to stand out, partially so that when we add a little bit of the dry brush, that it'll start to stand out even more, and those two sort of paint layers will make for just a more interesting looking figure. And that's what we're going for here, is just to make him a little bit more interesting. Now I'm really trying to get into these little areas on his leg, because there's a lot of detail right in here, little rivets and things. So I want to get in here and really show it off. Because that was one of the areas that I first noticed when he opened it up and was showing it to me. I was like, oh, that looks really cool. But then he commented that there just wasn't enough detail in there. And so could we do anything about that? And I was like, of course we can do something about it. Hopefully it'll turn out the way that we're kind of envisioning it. But you can see it's getting stuck in there. It's making it so that those little rivets and things are just standing out a little bit more. In here, it's beating up a little bit too much. So let's just keep moving. Let's keep this oil so that it doesn't have a chance to beat up. I like this oil because it just makes things look a little bit more dirty. And with a Batman character, especially one based off of Bermejo's art, dirty is a good look. All right, the oil has dried. You can see he's looking more textured, he's looking cooler, but he still doesn't stand out as much as I would like. So we're gonna start with the dry brush. We're gonna do gray first and see what that does. And if it's not enough, then we'll move on to the white and kind of mix, and we'll play around. Remember, all this is experimentation anyway, so we're just gonna experiment and see what we like best, what I like best. I suggest you do the same. So let's go ahead and move on to that section and see what we get. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some of this gray paint, and I'm going to then use basically some toilet paper. I'm just going to get it so that there's very, very little on the paintbrush. So I'm just gonna dab it and kind of go like that so that it's dry. And then I'm gonna take Batman and I'm just gonna start brushing in these little areas. And you can see it starts to leave, let me move him over here, there we go. Starts to leave a little bit behind, and it's just nice and subtle. So it catches some of the edges, highlights a little bit of the edges, but doesn't leave much else behind. And so I can go back to the toilet paper. Let me put it over here so you can kind of see it. So, see, yeah, so I'm gonna go back to the toilet paper, grab it here, and then I'm gonna do the same thing where I'm just gonna pat it and twist it out, squeeze it in between my fingers a little bit so that it is just very dry, and then go back in and start doing this. It's hard for me to kind of see exactly what I'm doing while filming at the same time. So I'm gonna play around with it a little bit right now. But you can see it's going on, and it's leaving it's hitting a lot of the edges here. And so that's what I'm after, is just kind of to hit some of these areas. But it's going on really light, so I don't know if this gray is gonna be enough to really make any kind of difference. I'll play around with some of the black a little bit and see what I can get. And then we'll take a look at it together once I've kind of gone over the figure, and then see how much more light we want to go. I'm putting a little bit on the cowl and just seeing, see it's barely going on, there's barely any, but it's adding a little bit to him. And I kind of like the look of that. Just dirties him up again. We want him to look like Bermejo art. And if it gets on a little bit too thick, you know, feel free to wipe it off with your finger. There's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of my common thing to do. I'm going a little bit thicker on the back of the cape and then moving it around just on these ridges for his cape. So I'm kind of pulling some off the lip here and then going on just a little bit thicker and then mushing it around a little bit. Because these ridges on the cape would be highlighted a little bit better, and it gives it kind of a, you know, like a bony look almost. Like the actual bones of a bat in the wings. It makes it look a little bit cooler, in my opinion. You know, you can do whatever you want. That's the fun of this. So you don't have to follow what I'm doing. And I know a lot of you guys are actually way better than I am. But this just gives it just a fun little look. And I'm liking it. It's looking almost like it's worn, like the cape has rubbed up against things on these ridges, and that it's done a number on it, and that it's not as in good a shape as it was, you know, 5 years earlier. And that's how all of Lee Bermejo's art looks, is that it's got this sort of weathered, like Batman's been out doing this for a long time and he's not doing very well. And that's starting to kind of take on that look right there. That's nice. All right, so his cape and the cowl, all of the black on the suit is really starting to look good, because you can see the gray has highlighted it really nicely. It's dirtied it up. It's made it look worn and weathered. That's great. But the gray did not do enough, in my opinion, on the actual gray of the body. So I'm gonna go through with a white and do the exact same thing, and hopefully that will be sufficient to kind of make this area stand out too. But I'm really liking how he's looking with just these contours and stuff on his cape. All right, so the situation is gonna be exactly the same. I just took this brush and I got some white and kind of wiped it off on the, oop, that's way too much. Let's fix that. Or if you get it quick, you can kind of wipe it with your fingers. There we go, that's not too bad. And I'm just trying to dust him just a little bit, just on these little areas here. Just enough to kind of catch some of the details. And I probably have too much on. The first time I've done a lot with a dry brush, so, and the white actually stands out a lot. So I'm gonna go nice and light on these areas. Nice and light. I'm gonna keep kind of rolling it and making sure that now it's much better. Okay. Now I'm able to touch a little bit more and have it not quite be so blatant. But it was going on kind of nice. Let's fix some of that. I love finger painting with the figures because it really does help, especially when you're doing something like this. Just takes off that edge I don't want, gives it just enough. And sometimes I can go on thicker like that and then come through with my finger. That actually works out kind of nice. So remember, it's experimentation, it's having fun, it's not holding yourself to too high of a standard, because this is supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, then don't do it, man. If you're not having fun doing this, then don't do it. I've been having a lot of fun lately doing this, and so I'm going to continue. And even when they're not perfect, I absolutely love them. Every time I look at that Bane from a couple weeks ago, that Collect and Connect, oh my gosh, I just get so excited that it turned out so nice. So he's starting to go on pretty nice. The textures are starting to come out a little bit more. He's looking dirty. He's looking Bermejo-esque when it comes to the colors. And I'm just gonna keep moving. All right, I went through and I added a little bit of gray just to kind of cover up where some of the white was standing out. And now we're going to go ahead and do the yellow. I've decided I'm gonna do kind of like just the dry wash with the yellow too. So I'm gonna get the yellow nice and thin over here and just kind of go through and see if I can add, if it adds anything to it. Doesn't look like it's adding much to it right there. So this Citadel paint does go on a lot lighter. So maybe if I just add a little bit in here, I can then go through and just kind of, see, even that's more than what I want. Get in here. The more that I'm able to kind of mix it around, the more it goes on the way I want. So let's just go around here while it's wet. Get in here, we're getting a little bit on him. I should probably using a finer brush, but I'm in a little bit of a hurry right now. I'm not going to lie. So it is looking dirtier. It's not looking like a bright yellow. It's able to kind of wipe it off the bat symbol there a little bit. And remember, I can clean some of this up that I got on. I can just put a little bit of gray, and that'll cover it. So yeah, I think that's not looking too bad. I think that's looking pretty good. Kind of the yellow that I wanted. I still want it to be dingy. I just wanted it to be brighter, is all. I wanted it to be a brighter yellow. And as you can see, I've developed some bad habits, and so the brushes are getting kind of jacked up over time. So I'm going to try and start taking what I learned from Russ about how he would do it and then just get it on the tip and roll it out. I'm going to start trying to do that a little bit more as I go in and do some of these. But I think that yellow is making him stand out just a little bit. I mean, that's the thing, is so much of this is just about that sort of design element and making things so that they stand out and just look cooler. And that's what I'm trying to do. What I'm thinking right now is I'm going to add a little bit of the silver to here, to the symbol, and maybe to these buttons here, just to add a little bit more of some goodness here to the belt. All right, I think we are done. He's got some really nice detail. I like how he turned out. For me, he feels very much like Lee Bermejo's art. The sculpt was there, the details just weren't. Now he's got that sort of weathered look, that scratched look. So I added some black, I put black back over his bat symbol to make it stand out, and then I just added a couple of little flecks of the silver just to make it look like things have been scratched up, that this is a used suit. Now let's take a look at a side-by-side. You can see the changes there. I think he looks really, really good. Very happy with this guy. All right, well, that's this week's custom. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe, because I'm going to be posting a new video every single week. And you guys just have a great week yourselves, and I'll see you next time.